All right, welcome everyone. Chris Petri here. We're just kind of getting started here. In this video, we're going to create a beautiful flower arrangement. We're going to have everything all set up perfect for you so that you can see our, we have on our cell phone, we have our reference photograph, we have our paints, our palettes, we have everything here that you need to kind of focus in and get everything working all at one time for you to create this painting. So I'm going to go over all the details that you need, everything A to Z as we work on this. Beautiful colors. We're going to start out with the alla prima method, which is basically all at one time you're painting your painting. And again, with alla prima, we always say we're going to start out with our darks, and we're doing our darker darks of the beautiful purple irises, some of the green leafy forms, some of the fruits here in the foreground. Once we get those in, then we start to work on our lighter washes, and you'll see that how it all comes together. It's so much fun to paint this way. So I'm really hoping you'll enjoy the alla prima method as we work together. And again, we have everything you need right here in the picture frame, and you'll see that it really goes well. You just follow the process as we go, and everything works out beautifully. Okay, so we're going to get started in just a second. Thanks so much again for coming by, stopping in here. Hope you'll become a regular viewer of my channel. Again, we do everything here watercolor, so you're in great shape. You're going to be at the right place at the right time here working on my channel. And let's get started. Okay. All right, so we're just going to get started. We saw the finished painting, and now we're just going to kind of just reverse engineer it. Kind of go through the steps that we took to get to this place. I'm going to just do a little zoom in here. Hope you don't mind. Okay, this way we get a little bit closer to the paper and our... I just have a quick... I think I painted this a year or two ago. So I just took a picture of what I painted, and then I have it on my phone here. And then we'll have our paper. So we're just going to copy kind of what we did prior. On this here. And then we have our paints here. Again, simple setup here. Schmincke palette. I did a customized palette. You can always check in on my archive videos. So if you just go into YouTube and check, you just type in Chris Petri palettes. And then if you type in that Chris Petri palettes, you'll see that I have the Schmincke palette and how I set it up customized like this. But you don't need to customize your palette. You could just use the regular Schmincke palette. That's fine too. I just changed it a little bit so that I could have a few more colors in there in the palette. And I spritz it with a little bit of water with my Holbein spritzer bottle just to keep the paints moist. And that's a big part of watercolor, is keeping our paints moist. So we like to do that. And this way we can get really beautiful color right away when we're dipping into it with our brush. And so let's start out with our contour drawing. So the first thing we usually do is we mention where's our light source coming from. So you can always, you could do it with your pencil, or you could even take a Sharpie if you want it to be a little bit more pronounced. And we're going to say that our light source is basically directly overhead maybe. So that means I'll take my Sharpie marker and I'll make a lamp or a spotlight like this, with a light bulb in the middle like this, and then I'll just put a little bit of a spotlight like this. So that we know that the spotlight is kind of directly overhead, shining straight down. And then that's our light source. So that kind of makes it easy when we're painting or trying to refer back to where our light's coming from. We kind of have that bit of a guide for ourselves here. And then from that point, it's... I usually like to make a rectangle around my composition, and it kind of just gives me like a visual reference point for my rectangle or my square as to where I'm going to be working within. So if I have that, I feel confident. Okay, that's the area I'm working within. And then from there, I just look at my composition. We'll refer to my original composition here. I'm thinking about 1/3 of the way up is the back of the table here. So I'll make a light pencil line across here for the back of the table. And then from there, everything else will work out fine. We just want to make sure we get that definite edge of the back of the table at about 1/3 up. So you could always just break your painting down into thirds and say, okay, here's about 1/3 this way here from the top down, 1/3 up from the bottom up, and 1/3 in the middle. So you have like basically 3 divisions, space divisions within your painting vertically for this. So maybe the first third is the back of the table. Then we notice that maybe halfway is, or a little less than halfway. So if this is the third here, about halfway is the top of the vase, maybe a little lower than halfway, about there. So you can kind of just make a little note for yourself. That's about where the top of the vase is. And that's about the one point we need to really focus in on and say to ourselves, how can I get this pretty accurate from the start? And we'll look at this and say, okay, well, that vase is about halfway down from the top, or halfway up from the bottom is the top of the vase. So there you have your 2 main vertical reference points. 1/3 up from the bottom is the back of the table, and then a halfway between the top and the bottom of your composition, you're going to have the top of your vase. And that's all you really need to worry about. Those 2 things, if you have those, you're really set. Then from that point, we can just take this and say, okay, for the vase, we're going to say that it is quite large in this square here, this rectangle. So it does encompass about quite a bit of distance across like this. Something like this, right? And it goes down a little bit here, below the back of the table. So there we have a square. And then once you do that, you can always erase a little bit if you need to. If you find you need to erase a few lines, no big deal. Okay, so now we have that. We have the vase, the back of the table here. And we're pretty much, again, set. Then from here, what I'll do is I'll just do a light sketch or layout of the components of this composition, the flowers, the beautiful flowers, the stems, some of the fruit. We have a little bit of fruit on the table, and vegetables. We have some different things. So let's do that. Let's kind of just lightly, very lightly, just kind of make a light silhouette of where we see everything. Okay, we have some things going right out of our rectangle up here. The flowers are going right out of our picture, and that's fine. Okay. So I'm just doing a light silhouette again around the whole floral arrangement up here. So you can kind of see it's really filling up a lot of this space up here in the top portion of our painting. Then down here we have our vase, which is quite simple, a square. It's basically a square. 3-dimensionally, it's a cube. It's basically like a cube with water in it, and it's a vase. But we know we could just look at this simply as a square. We're the artists. We're looking at this just simply. You could, if you see something like maybe the vase is a little bit maybe we need to shorten it up a little bit. Like that. You can do that too. So I shortened up the vase just a little bit on the bottom. And then I'll start to just lightly put in an orange here. We have an orange. And then this here is an apple behind the orange. Like this, an apple here. And then over here, a little bit way over this way, we have another orange. This might be a lemon, actually. Or this might be actually one of those small nectarines or clementine oranges. And then this is more of a larger orange. And then over here, wow, we have a paint tube. We have a paint tube over here. And then we have another over this way. Here we have a, let's, green apple maybe. Like that. And then over here maybe a lemon. Okay. And then behind this scene, we do have some, it's a window behind this scene. So let's make some window panes. Okay, so we're just going to make those window panes somewhat, nothing too definite, you know. We just want to have something in there. And if it's not perfect, or if you deviate from your photograph, that's fine. That's, as an artist, you can render things differently, change things to your own needs, to suit your own needs. But I think here we have a really nice light sketch, preliminary sketch of what we're doing here. Like that. That's it. Preliminary sketch, just to get everything in the place that we think we need it to be, and I think we're fine. Like that. And then what we'll do is when we come back, we're just going to do a little more detailed drawing. We'll call that our contour drawing. So this is what we call our preliminary sketch, where we get everything in lightly first, just to get an idea of where everything we wanted to have it sit within our rectangle or our square here. And that's what we did. We kind of just got a silhouette of everything, and then some details too. We got some trim, or, you know, the window panes of the window behind this bouquet. Of course, we started out right from the beginning. Where's our light coming from? It's pretty much coming through the window and pretty much straight right through the window, shining into that area here on the interior of the home. And then we have the tablecloth here. We're going to call this a white tablecloth to keep it simple. White tablecloth, a little bit of fruit. We have some things here you can, if you find that you have something that doesn't quite look like you have it in the and then we have our paint tube here with some shadowing underneath it, so you can have some shadows under your fruit. But we'll do this next. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll just get a few more details in our vase, our flower bouquet, and as well some of the details and maybe some of the shadows here. But other than that, I think we're really in great shape. Again, that's the whole point of doing that contour or preliminary sketch. The preliminary sketch is just so that you don't make things too small or too large, so that you're kind of going way out of your paper, your designated square or rectangle that you're going to draw to start with. So you draw your rectangular square to start with, then you start getting everything in here, and you break it down and again into thirds, quarters, whatever you feel you're comfortable with your spatial divisions. We did thirds, 1/3 up, back of the table, about halfway, top of the vase, and then that was pretty much our two main vertical waypoints. Then after that, again, we just added a couple things in there, our window panes, our fruits, our vegetables, you know, a couple things, and that's fine. Then when we come back, we'll do our contour drawing, which will get a little more detail with the flowers. Maybe we'll put a paintbrush in here or something, an artist brush, like a watercolor brush in here. But you're going to find that it's so much fun if you start out in the beginning, putting things together a little bit carefully like this, doing the preliminary sketch. And if you do that, you're going to find it so much easier to get your paintings looking good, because if you start out kind of shaky on what's inside the rectangle and the square of what you're working in, then it's hard to kind of, you know, make adjustments when you're starting to paint. So if you can get everything pretty solid when you start out with your pencil sketch, then from there you're home free, because then you can just go in and paint and have that freedom and that fun of painting, and you're not stressing over, oh my gosh, I got to erase a section, or I've got to change something, or I've got to start another one. Oh my God. So it's always fun just to get that first preliminary sketch in, really solid. Again, we'll do the contour drawing next, just to get some of the flower shapes and more of the definite details here. Which will only take us 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll get right into the painting after that. So thanks so much for coming by, for joining along. We're having a great time here. And again, it's just a real fun flower composition we're working on here, and we'll get into the details too of the paints, the colors, once we start painting, how you're going to apply those paints and those colors to your painting to make it look absolutely beautiful. Lots of color, vibrancy, impactful looking paint on your watercolor. We're going to paint watercolor painting. You're going to see it all here. So just be right back. We'll do our contour drawing next, and then after that we'll start painting. Okay, be right back. All right, so we're going to zoom in here one more time, and we're going to start getting in our finer details here. And let's start out over here. I noticed that I had some beautiful daisies here. So I'm just going to do those. Nothing too definite over here in the bottom of this vase here. I notice here we have some beautiful stems in this vase. So I'm going to, again, work on my contour drawing, which is just I'm starting in one place and then just working through the painting. So these are the stems within the vase, and then maybe I'll make my definite orange over here, and then the apple over here. That might be a plum. We have a lemon over here. So these are already pretty good for our contour drawing. The flowers are, I guess, really my details that I want to make sure I capture correctly. We have some beautiful irises here. So we're going to have those in the bouquet as well as our daisies here. So I'm just going to make those the centers of the daisies, just carefully make sure I have them in there. And again, a lot of this is going to be just fun washes within our painting, where we just carefully place some paint here and there to just kind of like, notate where the flowers are, where some of the stems are, things like this. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just getting in some details, but I don't feel like I have to get too much more of the details. I think most of it we're going to be able to sort of do while we're painting. And we're going to have some stems here, like this. So I'm just going to follow these stems here, like so. There's some stems over here. So again, that whole idea of the contour drawing is starting in one place and just working your way around. I work down in the painting here, some more over here. We have a couple flower and some stem shapes, some leaf forms here. We have a leaf form here, a couple leaf forms up here. And I think that's good. We have plenty of interesting contour drawing lines. And then from here, we're fine. We have a good map of what we need to paint from here. So we can get our background colors in, no problem, just by using the photograph and referring back to the photograph as we're painting. So everything's really going to hinge upon going back and looking at our photograph as we paint here, using our our phone. I have a phone here. You can use an iPad, a home computer, maybe you have a large TV screen. Whatever you use to work from, that's fine. I know everyone's different. You're the artist. You're going to find out what works for you best. I'll just probably have a few watercolor brushes here that I'm going to use. I'll probably just maybe use a couple of round brushes here like this, travel brushes. These are my Charles Reed travel brushes here, Escoda travel brushes. Maybe I'll use my needlepoint brush too, my Alvaro Castanet needlepoint brush. So I'll have all of these brushes here. These 3 brushes I think can really help me to get this painting completed, with no problem. So I'll have these over here to my left. As I need them, I'm going to use them. I'm going to fill my water bucket up with fresh, clean water. So I have a water bucket. I fill that up with fresh, clean water. You can use any kind of water bucket. I have incidentally, all of my watercolor supplies are down below in the comment section. Links to Amazon for any of the things you might need to pick up or purchase. Maybe most of you probably have all your art supplies already, but some of you that maybe are just joining along for the first time or you're just starting out in watercolor, trust me, it's pretty much an inexpensive start to begin with when you're just working with a couple things like brushes, a water bucket, some paper, some paints. It's not that much. Watercolor is a very affordable hobby, actually. So, and you can take it anywhere you go. You can bring it on weekend getaways, vacation. You can work around the house with your paints. You have a little small area carved out for yourself in your home. Maybe a desk or some area in the basement or in an attic or even in your kitchen on the kitchen table, whatever you want to do. You have the full freedom to set up your watercolor art supplies and your setup wherever you can do it. You can put it in a plastic bin when you're done and stow it someplace, and then you bring it out again when you're ready to paint again. So it's really a lot of fun, but we have all these things here that we're using, our art supplies, but there's really... To get started, especially if you're just starting, it's really kind of simple. And we have plenty of extreme beginner videos. If you just type in Chris Petri, extreme beginners, you'll see we have a different palette than this one that's even less of a hassle. Sometimes when you're working in watercolor and you have been working in it for a while, maybe a year or two, you're going to want to get the squeezable tube paints and get this really beautiful, gorgeous color here in your palette. But if you're just starting out, it's fine to use a really nice, simple Prang palette like I show on my Extreme Beginners videos. Those palettes are incredible, easy to use, simple to use, no fuss, no muss. So you can use those too as well. But let's get started with our painting since we have everything all set up here. And I'll just grab my brush here. I'm going to use the number 6 travel brush like this. And what I'll do is I'll go for the darks first. So I'm going to get some green, sap green, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, a little bit of burnt umber in there mixed. And then I can get a couple of the darker greens here going and starting to get the beautiful dark greens. Look at that, how good that looks. I keep a tissue in my hand and just dry off a little bit of paint and water. And a little bit of sap green, cadmium lemon yellow. And I just use the tip of the brush, the very point of the brush. Dip it into the paint. And then you have it. Okay, now we're going to have some iris. here. A couple splashes there. Purple iris here. A couple of splashes just to keep loose. Okay. Green. We'll use a little bit of the, this is Viridian green, kind of like a nice turquoise green. And we just put that here and there, just for a little bit of interesting color change. A little bit of raw sienna. I'll go with a nice French ultramarine blue for the bottom of the vase. Maybe a little bit up on top too. Okay, so you can see, I'm going to let this dry up here, some of these colors up here. I'll use a little bit of Prussian blue too. Okay. Now my idea is I am getting the darks in first. You can kind of see that. I'm working with the darks first, getting the really dark purple colors, the greens, the darker greens. You can see those here. So that's kind of like the thing I like to do. This is what you would call a la Prima painting, where you're just painting everything at one time. You're going in one time and you're thinking to yourself, let me get the darker darks first. The tonal values, the darker tonal values, the rich dark colors first. And if you get those in like we did here in the greens, you're kind of all set. You kind of have those in there and then drying. So you're letting those dry now. So we're letting those darker colors now dry, and we're just working around the painting. So now that we have some of those darks now working for us, they're drying, we'll start working in the foreground here a little bit. Let's get some of our let's see here, we have some cadmium yellow, raw sienna, a little bit of raw sienna and cadmium yellow. I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of water, go back in, pick up some of that yellow. Let's get this beautiful orange in here, like that. Then we'll put a little bit of that darker raw sienna across the center of it. That. And then right away we'll go in, pick up a little bit of green, maybe a little bit of purple, and we'll get a little bit of a shadow under there, like this. We definitely want to have that shadowing underneath that orange here. You can even get a little bit of cadmium orange. Like that. All right, so you have your cadmium orange in there. Cadmium orange, a little bit of raw sienna, and a little bit of cadmium yellow, and that should be fine for that. And we'll do the same thing over here. This might be a little more cadmium lemon yellow. We're going to do a lemon here. Like that. So we'll do a lemon there. And we'll do the same thing. For the lemon, let's get in that beautiful shadow underneath it right away. That's the key. When you're doing any kind of fruits, vegetables, things in your, like let's say we're doing this type of flower arrangement on a table with a white tablecloth, or you can use some interesting decorative tablecloths. You can come up with some really creative ideas with that. We'll do that in the future too. On some future videos, we'll do some more intense looking tablecloths with maybe some stripes and colors, or maybe some patterns, things like that. But for right now, we'll keep it just a white tablecloth like here. But when you do that, remember you want to keep that shadowing underneath there looking good and fusing in with the bottom of your subjects. Your subject matter, which is your lemons and oranges and so forth. So right away when I paint my lemon, I'm going to go right in and pick up some of that shadow color and get right in there and do that. And then get that shadow under there like that. And then you can rinse off your brush, tap off a little bit of the water, get some more yellow there, pick up some more yellow, cadmium yellow, and infuse it in there just so you don't lose that beautiful gold yellow color of the lemon, like that. Okay, and then over here, let's do a plum. Blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of red. Maybe we'll do a plum here. A little bit of burnt umber. Just to gray down those colors a little bit, but you can see how we can do that. Look how good that looks. I rinse off my brush, dry off my brush fast, take off some water. This is key too, dry off your brush. And then you can kind of lift up some paint there if it's starting to infiltrate over there into your orange. So if you have your plum over here behind your orange and then your plum starts leaking into your orange, you can rinse off your brush, dry off all the paint, all the water, and then just lift up the paint like that. And that looks much better. And you can fix that a little bit later once it dries too. You can add more orange paint to keep your paint looking good with your orange. And then we have this here, and then we'll do some more shadow colors here like that underneath there for the plum. So you see we're strategically going around. If you have smudges and things like this on your paper, don't worry about it. It looks good. It gives the painting some interesting looks to it, you know, instead of just like a boring painting with just perfectly painted items. You want to have some smudges here and there. Looks good. Gives it some variety, right? Guarantee it. Okay, so we're going to do our orange over here. I use straight orange here, right in the palette, right into the palette with that straight orange. And then I just dampen the brush. And there's a little bit of light on the top of that orange. So I leave it lighter up top on that orange area there. And then you can even add in some purple underneath here for a little bit of some shadow. And then here, let's go with some cerulean blue for our paint tube. So that's our paint tube. And then some shadowing under the paint tube. Like that. A little bit of purple for a shadow. And then over here, maybe this is an apple. We'll do a green apple here. If you paint over your paint tube, don't worry about it. There we go. We have a green apple. There, starting here. And then we'll fix this up with a little bit of white paint later. So always remember, you can fix things up with a little bit of white paint. If you paint over an area that may be white, this paint tube is actually white. with some blue on it. Don't worry. This is the top of the paint tube here. Okay, and then there's a little bit of okay, fine, looks good. We'll pick up some greens here for the background here. So I'm going to start to paint the background a little bit of gold, raw umber, green and raw umber back here, like that. Look how good that looks. And I just paint around the tops of the orange and the green apple. I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water with a paper towel, tissue, sponge, whatever you have. And I just sort of smooth this out a little bit. Kind of just keep it sort of diffused looking and working out into the light. We have light behind this window, the light coming through the window. And then that's really what we're looking for, is the light kind of effects here. And then there's the light here with the shadows of the flowers. So you have some shadowing on the white tablecloth from the, just a little bit of shadowing there. All right, perfect time to take a break. Let's take a break. I always mention that when you're working, take a break every once in a while. Perfect time to get a little drink of water, something, a beverage, stretch a little bit, sit down if you're standing up. If you're sitting down, maybe you stand up and walk around a little bit, get a little bit of a stretch, and then you come back and work. But we've done a lot so far. You can kind of see we've done a really good job now of starting out strong with our darks, the darks of this painting. And we're doing it a la Prima, which means we're painting all at one time. We're not doing glazings and light first, dark after that, whatever. We're just doing the a la Prima. You're just starting out right away with the darks, getting in your more prominent features of your painting. And then as we do that, we really find that we can get the look we want. And then as we get these really prominent features all painted in, as we're doing now, everything gets easier and easier as the painting goes on. So now we'll take a quick break. We'll let some of this dry a little more, and then we'll come back and we'll start to finish up. But I think we're actually probably about 60% to 70% complete. So we're going to finish up probably in the next segment or two. We'll have everything all completed and looking really fantastic. So let's just take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're getting back started again. Let's take a quick paper towel. I usually dip my paper towel in a little bit of water, and I just clean up the palette a little bit. That's all. I just try to clean up the palette just a tiny bit, get the colors up, you know. If we're mixing a lot of colors, it tends to get kind of muddy looking, the colors. So if we just clean up the colors a little bit, get a fresh palette going, clean up the colors, and then we can start out with more colors. And we're going to be using the same colors over and over again, so we don't have to worry about it. We're kind of going to keep track of that in the back of our heads. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll empty out my water bucket too. Fresh, clean water to start with here as we move on to our next segment here. All right, so now with the next segment here, I think we'll work on some of the daisies in the scene here, and I'll have some paper towels here, dry off the brush a little bit if we have to, and we'll get some raw sienna, maybe some burnt sienna, and what else would we need for that? I think that's good. Maybe a little bit of cadmium lemon yellow. Okay, then we'll just do that. We'll take our brush and come up like this and do a bit of a center point for one of our daisies there. Another one here like that. Maybe another bit up here. There's another one here. And that's all you have to do is get a couple of areas where you put the center of your flower in like that. And right away it reads as beautifully correct. Your flowers are now sort of set up in your painting like this. Like that. Then from that point you can come in and you can make a little bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of purple, so you have purple, cerulean blue. Mix in a little bit of the gold. And then you can get in a little bit of the shadows around those flowers, the daisies. So if you have a couple of those bits of flower shapes, you should be fine. So you can see I'm just taking the flower shapes of the daisies and doing a little bit of French ultramarine blue too as well. A little bit of sap green. So you can work in some sap green, blue, sap green. And the fun of this is to try to keep your bouquet of flowers here that we're working on, try to keep it light. Try to keep lots of light white paper in the middle of your painting there, your floral flowers, you know. It's easy to start to block everything in. That can be kind of like a pitfall when you're painting flowers and bouquets of flowers, is to start to block in tons of colors, and then next thing you know, it looks all like a lump of too much dark. So you want to keep it light in the center like this, like we're doing, and then you have it. It's much more pleasant looking. Okay, so I think I'll get some more green, sap green, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber to gray down just a touch. And I'll just do a couple of these quick, like that, a couple of quick darks like this. A couple of splashes. And I think we are really in good shape here. Let's do a little gold and green and some of this French ultramarine blue, raw sienna. So the colors would be sap green, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of, this is ultramarine violet, sap green, a little bit of burnt umber. Then we have a little over here, a little bit of raw sienna. And if you mix these all together, you get that really nice kind of grayish color, like that. And this way we can start working in our window panes like this. If you need more gold, gold is the color of light. Put that gold in there, like so. Maybe some more blue over here. Blue, color of the sky. Like that. And again, we're having fun, right? Have fun with your washes here as you go. Get some paint on here. I would leave the window panes it's nice to leave those window panes white. And I'm hoping you're enjoying this. This is really so much fun. You can paint these type of paintings over and over again and never get tired of them. There's so many little fun areas you can just explore different creative techniques with your flower paintings. And we'll use some cerulean blue here. And maybe just go across with like a bit of maybe a fold in the tablecloth. Maybe just a line here. You can blot up a little bit of paint. Like that. Just something there. Maybe that's the table, the edge of the table. You can add in some more color, infuse in some color as you need. A little bit of shadow underneath this orange here. And again, we're going to clean up this paint tube here with a little bit of white paint. Okay. But I think that's it. We have it. We're pretty much 100% there. You could add a little bit of punctuations of darks in a few spots like this. A couple more bits of green in the vase like this. I think I'll use my needlepoint brush now just to get a few more really fine lines. So I'll take some sap green, burnt umber, a little bit of burnt umber, some French ultramarine blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of raw sienna, just a combination of those colors that we've been using a lot over and over. And that's when we do a few more really beautiful fine lines like this. Fine bits of stems and things in this flower arrangement. It really goes a long way. It really looks fantastic. So these are the kind of really the final details you can create in your paintings that really make it look very realistic. Just these few very fine lines like this. And that's it. And then we talked about using a little bit of white, titanium white. I like to use titanium white to do some white touch-ups to my paintings, or to add a little bit of highlights like light. So I'll go back with my round brush, dry off the paint, rinse off the brush, dry off the water and paint, keep the brush really dry. Pick up a little bit of maybe a yellow ochre. Put a little yellow ochre in the tippy top of your titanium white tube of paint, just so you have a little bit in the top there. And then you can do some light like this. Maybe there's a little white highlight there, like that. Maybe it's over here too. Dip into that white just a little bit. Not too many of these, but you can do that. Wow, that looks so good. Like that. If it's too much, no problem. Dry off the brush. And just blend that in. So maybe you just have one highlight like that. Okay, and then we talked about over here. We're just going to touch up the tube of paint. Like that. Maybe a little bit of white here in the palette. Touch of water to it. A couple of splashes of white paint. Just a few here and there. And that gives it that really nice texture. Not too many though, not too many splashes. Splashes are very sparing when you're working with watercolors, if you like them at all. So that's if you do like splashes here and there a little bit, use them sparingly. You'll always be happy with that effect. Too many splashes obviously could be overwhelming, but a few here and there can really look fantastic. I always like to use splashes in my paintings, you know, for my own. That's what I like, the look that I like. But, you know, you're the artist. You're going to decide on what kind of effects you like, what kind of look you like, colors you enjoy. So as an artist, you have that free expression of anything that you like to put into your paintings, your own kind of like niche type of stuff, you know, your own colors, your own maybe designs to things, your own little signature type effects, maybe splashing, a little bit of blotting with tissues, different effects. Please do them, enjoy them, try them out. You can always have fun with all of the different things that make up watercolor, all the fun nuances of it. All right, so we've had a great time. I'm glad you're here working with me in watercolor. I just always mention, if you want to, if you hit the subscribe button down below, it just lets you know that we're making new videos every week. So we make new videos every week on my channel. We cover everything, all the different subject matter that you love in watercolor, the classic watercolor type of content, right? So flower paintings, seascapes, landscapes, country scenes. We do a little bit of portrait paintings, a little bit of figure painting. We'll also cover, again, still life paintings with, you know, all kinds of interesting things like flowers and fruits, vegetables, all kinds of interesting things like that. So we do everything here on my channel, watercolor. Hope you'll keep coming back and working along with me. Again, we're always having fun, enjoying the process, and I always try to cover all the fundamentals of watercolor. So if you're just starting out, or if you've only been painting watercolor for a short time, you'll learn all the fundamentals as you go, because you're going to be tuning in and you're just going to hear them over and over again, and you'll really, you know, kind of pick up on things, and really it'll eventually, all of those things will just keep stacking on top of one another in your thinking when you're painting watercolors, and that'll give you better results. Okay, all right, great to work with you. We'll see you on the next video, and bye for now.